Hello, everyone. Here we are for the first race of XTC Season 2 here from Barber Motorsports Park. My name is Alex Andersen. I am joined in the booth by Tom Dillon tonight, with Ian Fisher doing production on the cameras in the background. And with that, we have a new season of exciting XTC action starting here at Barber Motorsports Park. A bit of an overview about this track. Barber Motorsports Park is an impressive road course and museum complex located at Birmingham, Alabama. Actually, I think it's in Leeds, actually, if I'm not mistaken. Built by George Barber as a home and runout for his impressive collection of motorcycles, the track has been designed by Alan Wilson to make best use of the topography of the landscape and features numerous elevation changes. With motorcycles with motorcycles having been Barber's major passion, it is no surprise that the circuit has hosted an annual vintage motorcycle festival since 2005, becoming the largest of its kind in the country and showcasing the Barber Vintage Motorsport Museum's collection and machinery from across the USA. On the sporting front, it has hosted top-level two-wheel action since 2005, firstly with the AMA Superbikes and more latterly Moto America. The Grand Prix of Alabama has been a staple of the IndyCar Series calendar since 2010, while the circuit has also hosted Grand Am and IMSA events in the past. And with that, we're getting ready for a whole new season of XTC. Not with TCRs anymore, though. We are switching to GT4s for the lower series. We still have some GT3 cars, but we are switching to GT4s with a whole new array of people as well. And Tom Dillon, my partner up here in the booth, give me your predictions or some thoughts to start out the season here up in the booth.
Well, hello Alex, and of course the GT4 car being the replacement to the TCR car means it's essentially a more traditional sports car grid here. Of course, TCR being particularly touring cars, and GT4 cars really are the natural progression that you take up to GT3. So it's good that we've got two fairly similar characteristic classes of cars, and of course we're going to have 45-minute races as well, though I believe we've also got some more endurance style ones later in the season. But particularly here at Barber, as we're just getting into qualifying, it should be a pretty intense race. I mean, I've watched Indy cars around here and they can barely have any room to pass. So with these big sports cars and multi-class racing, it should be a pretty fun race to watch unfold.
Yeah, definitely. And just speaking of this track, like you, I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that me personally, I've only really known this track from IndyCar racing, and quite honestly, before this, I did not know that they ran some more motorcycle racing usually. So it's a very interesting track, and I can see how the layout fits bikes. So here, like you said, with these big GT3 and GT4 cars, it's honestly lower speeds than the Indy cars too, though. I think it's going to be a pretty close race. Passing might not be the easiest in the world, but the elevation changers are sure to provide a challenge.
As we see Jake Ham in the Ferrari head round on what I believe is actually a lap here for Jake, as I'm just referring to my live timing screen, as it's a bit inconclusive actually as to whether he's on a lap or not. It's well, at least it looks leisurely for the time being, and usually that's a sign of something being quite fast. And well, the Ferrari currently sits down in 5th position overall. The class positions for GT3, it will be the same as well. But well, Jake Ham running up to the line. It'll be interesting to see if he does improve on this lap. And as he comes across the line, I can tell you that he did not. It was a 122.5, so just about a second down on Jake Ham's best. But currently, it's Eduardo Peccarini on pole position.
Yeah, and just I gotta take a moment to just talk about Eduardo Peccarini. If people were watching last season, he was known for absolutely just taking pole into TCRs and just running away with the entire race. And well, personally, with the GT3s being a big switch, I expected him to. Well, I knew he was definitely going to be more towards the front, but I didn't think he was going to already have pole by around 8/10 of a second, it looks like. So he's on provisional pole, the only driver in the 120 range as of right now. Just very impressive driver overall. He knows exactly how to get it done. But as we're looking at J-Cam, currently P5 in his class and overall for himself with a 121.5. Looks like he rounds the final 2 corners. We're going to see if he can improve on that. Not sure if he will, though, as he comes down to the line. See what he does. Looks like a 123.1. He's not going to improve on that lap. Excuse me, it was a 122.0. So it looks like maybe a tad bit of an improvement, it looks like, for him. Still sitting in P5, though, for himself.
Well, I have to be completely honest with you. My something has happened with my game, and it's now frozen.
I think we may have. Am I still here? Okay, so I guess we may have lost Tom in the commentary booth for now, so we'll just try and carry on here as still looking at J-Cam as he rounds the last couple of corners once again. And actually that past lap, Bobby Ross took third with a 121.1. And I think, I'm not sure if it's just on my screen. I think it might just be an iRacing error, but it looks like Alex Bergstrom has taken second, but on my screen it says that he's ran a on my screen it says that he's ran a faster lap than, or slower lap than Bobby Ross. So not sure what's going on there, but I'm going to go ahead and assume that he still has gotten a decent lap for himself there. Still just hanging out there in second with Eduardo Peccarini still just an entire, just complete second ahead of the field. As we take a look at Josh Clogg, one of last season's main competitors. That he wasn't able to keep up with Bob Ross due to just missing races, but still holding his own up there. In 4th place, he's behind his rival for last season, Bobby Ross there. But still, just hanging out in P4, just ever so slightly behind him by 65 thousandths, just over 600ths of a second. And he's just hanging out down there in P4 as he shoots down the back straightaway into, the corners here don't have names, so I'd be willing to call that one a bit of a dip as it brings you towards the final few corners of this track here. Then you go into a bit of a roundabout, trail braking the entire time, it looks like, for him. Then into the final corner, a downhill left-hand 90-degree corner to bring you back onto the main straight. Not sure if he's going to be able to improve here. Looks like he ran a 121.5, I do believe, so not going to improve for himself as we wheel it down into the final 5 minutes of qualifying. And see if we can follow somebody else that might currently be on a lap. I think Tyler Coates is running a lap down there in the GT4 cars. And speaking of the GT4 cars, look at our little friend down there having some fun in that 244 car, Adam Thompson, who usually runs cameras up here most of the time, currently racing in this series. So it's awesome to see him down there racing for himself around Barber. And here we go. So we take a look at Jaden Darling, who looked like was just stopped on the track right there.
Well, I'm back from my technical gremlins, at least audio-wise.
Oh.
I'm still not in the game. I'm trying to sort that out. Hopefully, no issues happen for the race. But well, Adam Thompson, always brave of someone on the broadcast side to go into the racing. I've done it myself a little bit, and not on iRacing. I'll give you that. But always brave. Always very brave, because you've got quite a nice safe haven up in the commentary box, and sometimes when you actually get out onto the racetrack, it can be quite a different beast, that's for certain.
And does look like we are getting into the final moments of qualifying here with, yeah, our boss currently sitting in first for the GT4s, and actually it looks like Alex Bergstrom is actually in second for the GT3s with a 1:21.0 there for himself, so he is actually in front of Bobby Ross, so apologies for that one. And I can't get over Eduardo Peccarini, 9/10, maybe 8 ahead of second place. I knew he was an impressive road course driver, and switching from TCRs, front wheel drive cars, maybe use a bit of handbrake to get them turned, because you can use a handbrake to get those cars turned. Just to move up into just these big, more powerful, just extremely difficult to push to the limit GT3 cars, it's just honestly incredible.
Yep, and well, this is why we say that the sort of the GT4 cars are the natural progression is the GT3. They're very similar cars, and I suppose that's why they've opted to run these particular cars, so they are a lot similar. The jump isn't as big, but TCR cars, absolute different beast. Of course, they are inherently touring cars, which I find incredible.
Yeah, and it looks like currently the track temp, or the air temp 78 degrees, the track temp 88 degrees, so a bit of a cool track here, which honestly I would think is better, cool track. If you got the tires warm, they can grip pretty nicely down there, 56% humidity for these guys, which is going to make everything just feel a tad bit hotter with a 2-mile-an-hour wind and it being partly cloudy here. It looks like we are around, if I'm not mistaken, around maybe 7, 8 o'clock in the afternoon here for these guys at Barber when they take the green flag. So as we wind down these final few minutes of qualifying, Dillon, Tom, give me your race predictions for this. Who do you think is going to end up in front at the end of this 45-minute race?
Well, Eduardo Peccarini seems to be the class of the GT3 field. 120.1 was around 9/10 faster than anyone else in the field, regardless of the GT3 field, just overall. A license, I'm reading on the live timing screen, 5,000 I rating is the highest by far, essentially, of anyone. On this grid, I think he's got about 1,100 I rating to the next best. So all of the statistics point to Eduardo Peccarini coming home to take this victory. But 45 minutes is a particularly long time to be driving around an attritional racetrack like Barber Motorsports Park. And remember, the GT3 cars will probably have to make 2 pit stops as well. So a lot of opportunity to mess up here.
Yeah, definitely. And honestly, I'm not going to count out Bobby Ross there, sitting in third place currently. Looks like around a 10th behind Alex Bergstrom, maybe just under a 10th of a second. And he won the GT3 championship last season. I know Eduardo won the TCR championship last season, but Bobby, we know he is a very, very impressive driver. And even if he isn't the fastest, he can get around racetracks probably more cleaner than most other drivers in the field. He's a very clean, very smart, very conservative driver, and he knows how to get things done here. But we're going to take you through your starting grid tonight here in the first race of Season 2 of XTC. Eduardo Peccarini with just an incredible 1:21.91 second lap time. Alex Bergstrom 8/10 behind him, which is absolutely astonishing, in second place. Bobby Ross there in P3, Josh Clogg in fourth. Jake Ham is in P5 currently. Kerry Cantera P6, Robbie Shin 7th, Jaden Darling in 8th, Chad Seep in 9th, Eric Whitner in 10th, Matthew Plaisance in 10th, and it looks like we have Frank Appa, I believe that's how you pronounce that, in 12th. Then moving on to the final car in the GT3 field is Patrick Cobb in 13th, and starting 14th overall, first for the GT4 field is Adam Thompson there. looks like with his lap time being a 1:28.457, Robert Schwenkler just a bit behind him in 15th overall, second in class. James Keir in third for his class. Grant Turner fourth. Glenn McTavish in fifth. Jerry DiPiero in sixth. Rob Neville seventh. Tyler Coates eighth. Kevin Irwin in ninth to round out the GT3 field. And as the cars start to roll off the grid here for one pace lap around this 2.27 mile long racetrack, this race, I think it's just going to be incredible here.
All about strategy, I think, particularly with the two expected pit stops for the GT3s, and even in GT4, single pit stop expected there. It's all about when you make that pit stop. Can you do it later? Can you do it earlier? And how can you manage strategy on that front? As for the grid, I've got a couple of drivers I want to keep an eye on. I want to keep an eye on fellow countryman James Keir. And, well, he's got Sir in his name as well. And what he's doing up at 2 in the morning, goodness knows. But he's going along quite nicely in GT4, at least in qualifying. And I'll be looking to see if he can get through the grid. But, well, also fellow broadcaster Adam Thompson, we'll be seeing if he can do anything in the Aston Martin GT4. And then, of course, we'll be having a look at the battle at the front.
I hate to interrupt you there, but there was a car off track, and I think that was Josh Clogg in a Mercedes. I'm not quite sure what just happened to him. It looked like he was coming through. Looks like he was coming through turn 9. Could have been a texting and driving error, honestly. Slides off track. I can't really tell if there's any damage to the front of his car, but I just want to take a second to look at Eduardo is going to start this race in his BMW, but he's going to have 3 hungry Mercedes after him as they roar down into turn number 1. But they're going to come through the final sweeper here for what I'm going with is going to be a thriller of a race for the start of Season 2 of XTC. The iRacing safety car dives into the safety of the pit lane, and as these group of GT3 cars and GT4 cars round the final corner, Eduardo very quick to the gas. Looks like he taps the brakes a bit there as not to jump the restart, but as they come down the main straight, Season 2 of the Cross Touring Cup is underway here from Barber Motorsports Park. Eduardo Peccarini with a great start gets clear of the 2 cars behind him. Bobby Ross there tries to pull in front of Alex Bergstrom by the time they get to turn 2, and he will. And now the chase is on. Looks like Bergstrom still fighting back on the inside. Josh Clogg moves up into P4 there with J Cam just behind him. They're still side by side by the time they get down to the hairpin.
Yep, and still down the inside is that Ferrari trying to make a move to see if he can get himself up into 4th position. In the end, he is able to just about squeeze on through on the Mercedes. But in fact, they're staying side by side here in the early stages of this race. And it looks like the Mercedes is actually holding on quite firm as it stands. Gets himself back up into 4th position. And then in the end, Ham has to concede the position. So an early assault for Ham, and in the end, not one that's very fruitful for him at all. As for the GT4 field, it appears that Adam Thompson has held on to the lead of the race off of the start, and well, I don't think we were expecting anything else. He's driving quite well so far, Adam Thompson, and well, he has got that Ferrari, just the McLaren even, not the Ferrari, Robert Schwenkler just behind him. And, well, I don't think that's going to be an easy opponent to overcome it.
Yeah, definitely going to be a bit of a cat-mouse race here for these guys up front as they start to pull away a bit from James Keir behind them. Adam Thompson and his Aston Martin, I'm predicting that he's just going to look in his rear view mirror this whole race, and he's going to see a hungry blue McLaren just stalking him the entire time. Robert Schwenkler currently just under a second behind, looks like gets going for a nice run out of the corner, which he will get as they come down. I'm not going to call it, maybe a bit of a short shoot between the kink and the hairpin here. As they break down into the hairpin. Looks like Robert Schwenkler, he closed the gap up a tad bit there as they went through turn 2. He's definitely not losing Adam Thompson. We have to keep an eye on this battle throughout the entire race, I think.
And, well, I think it's going to be one that, as I said at the start, is going to be won and lost during the pit stop phases. As right now it appears that they're fairly similarly matched on pace, the two British cars with two American drivers. And at the moment it appears that maybe matched on pace, but perhaps Schwenkler here has just got a little bit more pace. He's closing up ever so slightly. And, well, Adam Thompson needn't get complacent here, just needs to drive forwards, make sure that he's got an eye on the mirrors. But they always say in karting that you should always look forward, don't look behind you as much as you can, and just focus on your own race. And I think that's what Adam's got to do here.
Yeah, and back up towards the GT3 cars, Eduardo Peccarini already with a 1.7 second gap to Bobby Ross. Behind him is actually Josh Clark, just got around Alex Bergstrom going into the hairpin there. It looks like there was a bit of a pass there between Josh Clark and Alex Bergstrom as they
There's
went.
been an issue at the back for there's been an issue at the back for Patrick Cobb, who's falling well down the order very quickly. Actually, I want to say there's been a spin there or something for Patrick, because now we've actually got a replay for this one. Let's have a look at what happened to Patrick Cobb in the Mercedes as he's heading down into the hairpin, I think.
Ooh, Cantera looks like he got a bit sideways. Drives it off track.
Cobb. Yeah, it's not Patrick Cobb, sorry, but Cantera spins it around, and well, we'll have to set his sights forward. There's no huge loss there. He's down 5 positions off at the start, but plenty of time to make that up with about 35 minutes left in this race, as we look at Bobby Ross, who's leading a little train of cars and just not quite having the pace to keep up with Pecorini, but certainly holding his own in second position.
Yeah, and Alec Bergstrom looks like he's gaining a little bit on Josh Clark there by the time they get to the hairpin. This is where the pass was last lap for third place. They gain right up to each other when they get to the hairpin. It looks like Josh Clark closing in on his competitor for last season for Bobby Ross, and it looks like he may have a crash somewhere throughout the field. It looks like we have a replay of it. This was Eric Whitner in the number 10. It looks like that's a GT3 Porsche. Into turn 1 he is, and it just looks like he sends it in a bit too hard. Spins it out, doesn't hit anything, brings it nicely back onto the track with not much loss, but not much gained. And actually, I want to take a look back at the GT4 class, because it looks like Robert Schwenkler made a pass for the lead on Adam Thompson. He's currently leading the GT4 class. It looks like we have a replay coming up for it. Here it is, and it looks like, Adam got off track in the final couple of corners, brings it back on, but costs him the lead there through the final corner. And Robert Schwenkler, now the leader of this race, and now we have to see if Adam Thompson can play catch-up enough to get that lead back.
I suspected it might have been a mistake from Adam, as they're so evenly matched on pace that to already have what looks visually to be about a second's worth of a gap, that would have been quite impressive from Schwenkler. But Adam Thompson, keen to make some moves back forward, has a little bit of a look down the inside into the right-hander, and in the end has to back out of it. It was speculative at best there, but now Thompson well into the slipstream, onto the grass, actually down into turn 1. He's going to absolutely think about a move here. In fact, he tucks back behind it. It's not really an overtaking spot, turn 1, but Thompson now is just going to pressure as much as he can the car just ahead of him for the lead of the race. The lead of the race that he himself will feel like he's thrown away at this stage, and he's going to look to try and get this one back as soon as possible. It is really, really pressuring Schwenkler now.
Yeah, looks like as they break into the hairpin there, while we have a break in the action, looks like we have a bit of an incident for Tyler Coates here, as we get a replay on this. This is in a GT4 Lego Aston Martin. I love the paint scheme, but coming through 7, 8, and 9 here, breaks into the hairpin, sideways onto the grass there. Looks like he doesn't hit anything himself, but ends up towing the car back to the pit lane. These guys just absolutely duking it out. I do think that, judging off that last lap, Adam might have a bit more pace. He ran a 1:28.8 compared to Rob's 1:29.4, so I would say if Adam can push it for a lap, he might definitely have the pace to catch up to Robert Schwenkler, but the thing is, like you were mentioning, Tom, passing here is a whole different story.
Yep, and, well, I don't know how accurate the information is, but on my timing screen it's saying that Bergstrom and Clog are coming into the pits, as actually Adam Thompson is closer now than he has been for the entire race, and he's really, really close to Schwenkler in that McLaren, in the Aston Martin GT4, and heading through turn 1, Schwenkler just pulls a little bit of a gap, perhaps a tiny bit of dirty air that is produced by these GT4 cars, despite their lack of aerodynamic dependence here, but still, Adam Thompson just behind, can't wriggle his way through.
Yeah, he's still very close enough, but moving up, back up towards the GT3 field, 3 cars under a blanket for second race. Alec Bergstrom, Josh Clog, and Bobby Ross. Looks like Alec got back around Josh Clog there after Josh had made a move earlier in the race there. Let's see if we can get a replay on that, but currently these cars just all under a blanket at the current moment. It looks like we have a bit of a replay here of this pass. Ooh, looks like Josh sends it through hard in between the kink there. The kink chicane, I'm going to refer to it as. And Alec Bergstrom able to slip on through and retake third place as they head into the final couple of corners there. But back into live as they head towards turn 7. These guys, they've just been super close to each other all race so far. Ooh, Josh very hard into that corner. Almost cleaned Bergstrom out there as they come out of turn 9. Very good driving from Josh not to cause an accident there, but that was very close through turn 9.
And now, actually, there's an opportunity here around the outside, and this could be a very brave move. It is going to be a very brave move all the way around the outside through the corner, and, well, that was quite impressive indeed. And, well, the 3 Mercedes, in fact, holding each other up a little bit here. The 3 Mercedes absolutely nip and tuck in this race.
Yeah, and looks like Bobby Ross under pressure now from Josh Clog as they head back down towards turn number 1. And it looks like Robert Schwenkler and Adam Thompson might be in a bit of a battle as well, as Josh Clog gets the spot from Bobby Ross there up into third. He goes, and I think Adam Thompson might have tried something into the hairpin there, according to my my intervals here. So looks like Adam, he definitely has the pace to catch up to Rob and make a move. It's just he's got to be a bit more patient in that Aston Martin. He still has 35 minutes left in this race to get around that number 235 McLaren. So I would say definitely be a bit more patient, but Adam definitely knows he has the speed to get around Rob at this stage of the race.
I'm just wondering here if maybe Adam Thompson needs to sit behind for a little bit and think about the pit stops, because really that, as I said, is where this race is going to be won and lost. If he can just maybe come in a lap earlier on the pit stop, get the undercuts working into his favour, then Adam Thompson could really have quite a good opportunity here. That being said, you might want to go for the overcut, maybe lose gain a little bit of time in the less fuel that you have to put into the car. But really, I think Adam Thompson would be quite smart here to maybe not be hasty in trying to make a move and just trying to soldier on in this race, get the mileage in, and then you can focus a little bit later on with GT3 traffic actually catching up. You can focus a little bit later on and making the progress.
And actually, it looks like Rob went a little bit wide into the hairpin there. Adam had a bit of a look towards the inside there, didn't make it work, and that's Patrick Cobb there, I believe that is, in that GT3 car. Yes, it is in the number 02 BMW there, chasing these GT4 cars, and that's where it might honestly get pretty interesting here. If Patrick has to try and maneuver around these cars while they're racing for the lead of the GT4 class, and it actually looks like Adam got onto the grass a bit there, so he's really pushing that Aston Martin to its limits to try and get around Robert Schwenkler, but we have to see what Patrick Cobb does when he gets to these guys in that Martini BMW here. Through the final few corners they come. Looks like if I'm Cobb, I'd probably just try and get around these guys on a straightaway here as they head out of the final corner here. Looks like Adam, he's really close to the back bumper of Robert Schwenkler. Here comes Patrick Cobb around both of them in that GT3 car. And it looks
And
like
that's actually going to help Adam Thompson, who now has a bit of a run on Schwenkler, as the GT3 traffic has actually got in their way a little bit. And now
bit
they're
of contact.
wheels, and Thompson can't quite find a way through still. And dare I say it, there might be a couple of incident points there assigned by the game, and the drivers need to watch that one, because 17 incident points is a drive through, and we've already seen a couple of excursions off of the track for Adam Thompson. Whether that constitutes an incident point, I'm not too sure, but it's something to keep in mind here if they're going to be racing hard.
It looks like the lead of the GT3 class has started to spread out a little bit for these guys, as Bobby Ross still quite close to Josh Clogg there for third in the GT3 class, but still just under a second back. So looks like these guys are calming down for the most part as they start to encounter some GT4 traffic here. And it looks like Eduardo Peccarini's he's got two cars between himself and Alec Bergstrom here, but Alec might be able to get around him out of this kink, which might mean some minimal time loss, but he might have gotten stuck behind one through this kink. So Bergstrom, judging off the lap times, you can see that, I'm not sure if that's off of just lap traffic, or you can see that Bergstrom, he's definitely got the speed to close the gap a little bit if he so desires to try and make a run at that lead.
And, well, let's make no mistake about it, that BMW is a very, very large GT3 car, so even getting past it around a circuit like this is going to be difficult. And I think with a 4.3 second gap, a couple of anomalies isn't going to deter Eduardo Peccarini, as I think he's absolutely checks out in this race now, and providing he can get the pit stops all right with no dramas, disconnects or excursions off of the circuit, I think he should be okay. Who might not be okay actually is Adam Thompson, who now is going to have to hope that Eduardo Peccarini can get past him without losing him too much time compared to Schwenkler just ahead of him, as they're still absolutely line of stern in this race. As all Peccarini just disappeared off my screen for a moment.
It'd be a bit of internet issues. We see Frank Appa there in the pits, as well as Kerry Cantera, which does mean that this is going to be a two-stop race for these guys, as Josh Clogg has actually really closed the gap here on Alec Bergstrom. Only 2/10 between these two cars as they come into the final set of corners here. Looks like Josh Clogg has the speed to be in second, and these guys are actually closing in on Eduardo Peccarini a little bit if we check out the intervals. So looks like these guys, they have the speed to catch up. I think if they just maybe just stop racing, focus down for a couple of laps, nail the pit stops, they'll be able to get around, or at the very least catch up to Eduardo Peccarini without much difficulty. But still looks like Adam Thompson just got a bit deterred off of Robert Schwenkler's rear bumper there with these GT3 cars trying to get around them, but that might hurt Rob Schwenkler's exit there for these guys. And really, you can just look at those intervals. They cut off a second and a half on lap 10 alone. Then Bergstrom bit into it even more by 2/10. So these guys definitely have a lot of speed, but they definitely lost a bit of time there through those first set of corners, probably having to maneuver around Robert Schwenkler and Adam Thompson.
And Adam Thompson lost out there big time compared to Robert Schwenkler. A little bit of a reprieve for Schwenkler, actually. 7/10 of a second, or 8/10 of a second, that gap got up to, as Thompson still just a little bit faster than his compatriot. But, well, still stuck behind, and it appears now that Alex Bergstrom is keeping Clogg stuck behind him. And Clogg not able to find a way through yet. That being said, he gained a great deal of time in the last sequence of corners. Tries to conjure up some form of a move. He's getting the better exits. He's just not able to find the space. Maybe now down into turn one, he's going to think about it. They haven't got traffic for quite a while here. He's all over, practically bump drafting the other Mercedes down into turn one, and eventually has to back out of it because it's just not an overtaking opportunity. He is absolutely stuck behind here, Josh Clogg.
Yeah, but I think he definitely has the speed to get around Alec Bergstrom if he can catch him in the right area of the track. We know how fast this driver is from season one here, and we know that he definitely knows how to get it done here in the GT3 cars. But even if he can get around Alec Bergstrom, he still has a 4.2 second gap to Eduardo Peccarini to worry about. But still, he's a very fast driver, but like you were saying earlier, I think these guys, they need to take a step back and worry about pit stops, because already some guys are going in. It looks like Glenn McTavish there in the GT4 cars in there. And it looks like Eric Whitner, and that is, see, it looks like, if I can tell correctly, that's Robbie Shin in as well for the GT4 class. Looks like Robert Neville hits in as well there. So these guys, they really need to start worrying about their pit stops here, because it could really make or break their race no matter how much faster they are than Eduardo Peccarini. And speaking of pit stops, in they come. Eduardo Peccarini, Alec Bergstrom, and Josh Klog all into the pits here. We're going to have to see what they can do here. They all got the pit limiters on, so it's going to be hard for them to speed here. So it's all going to depend on how much time they spend in their box. I would say probably fill it up on fuel and see what happens there. But Jake Ham has stayed out another lap here. He's going to take the lead of this race for a little bit.
And what the GT3 cars can do, and probably what I would do if I was Josh Klog, if we are expecting this to be a two-stop race, which I am led to believe, then perhaps Klog can actually put a little less fuel into the tank, so that he, you know, maybe gains a second during the pit stops, gets ahead of Bergstrom, and then can Ross even, not Bergstrom, and he can get ahead of him, and then he can build a gap without having to worry about actually passing him on the circuits, even though it will mean a later pit stop that's a little bit longer.
But it doesn't even look like that's happened. It's actually, they all came out of the pits, and looks like Josh Klog, he's 1 second behind Bobby Ross, and Bobby Ross 5.8 seconds behind Alec Bergstrom here. So I think what you were talking about might have happened, but just in reverse. Josh Klog fills the tank up all the way, maybe trying to go to the end here, or just trying to go as far as he can here, so that way he has to take less fuel later on.
And I'm not too sure what the tank capacities are in GT3. Typically unrestricted, they can go about an hour. I'm not too sure whether we're running some kind of 2 times fuel mixture or something like that, but theoretically, obviously with the 1 mandatory pit stop, but theoretically the GT3 cars should be able to get to the end from here, is what I'm trying to say. 20 minutes left in the race as we see Josh Klog really trying to hound the Mercedes just ahead of him. I mean, they're all Mercedes. The Mercedes of Ross specifically just ahead of him, and still not able to find a way through. And that seems to be a little bit of a theme in this race, dare I say it. Difficulties getting through the field and getting through the pack, particularly when you're relatively matched on pace like these two. There just doesn't seem to be many overtaking opportunities on this racetrack. You really have to pick and choose and be quite patient.
Actually, heading back to the GT4 class, we have a bit of a race exiting the pits there as Robert Schwenkler pulls out of pit lane just in front of Adam Thompson, which means both of them have completed their pit stop here, and they came right out again neck and neck. So very close pit road times for these guys, as it looks like there is still one GT4 car of Grant Turner who has yet to pit there in his Porsche. So looks like these guys, that's just how close they are. Looks like they were already close on track. I mean, just absolutely duking it out through the twists and turns of Barber Motorsports Park, and even just on pit lane as well, just so close on time to come out exactly where they were, first and second, separated by only a couple of tenths here. So this is definitely going to be shaping up to be a really nice race for the GT4 cars to the end of this race.
Yep, and well, they can't. It's still, they're just stuck behind each other. Adam Thompson is, he must be absolutely frustrated in that car. He can't do anything to get past Schwenkler just ahead. It's almost as bad as Monaco, as he just cannot physically find a way to get through. He can't go for a dive bomb. He can't do anything like that. And really, this is now a measure of patience. He's got to be patient, and he needs to just wait it out, really. As I said, just wait it out, make sure that he gets himself into an opportunity where towards the end of the race maybe he can go for a little bit of a dive bomb, as the Mercedes GT3 traffic just behind him gets a little bit up in his personal space, and a little bit of a scary moment for a second there from Adam Thompson. was eventually the GT3, goes on through without any further dramas. And oh, there's a mistake!
Actually,
It's a
Rob
mistake
goes
from
wide.
Schwenkler, and Adam Thompson sails on through to the lead of the GT4 race. And, well, after Adam Thompson himself made a mistake in the early stages of this race that gave Schwenkler the lead of the GT4 race, the other American returns the favour. And now Adam Thompson can go through into the lead and hopefully, for him, build something of an advantage. Because here's what happened, and just unsighted on the marbles, I think.
Yeah, maybe, and just maybe a bit too wide going into the hairpin. As Adam, it looked like he was going to try and get around Frank Appa and the Mercedes again there, heading out of the hairpin. And Rob actually is off track again there, going down that back straightaway. So this is going to really put him 4 seconds behind Adam Thompson. So now we were talking about patience. That's definitely where it has to come in now for Adam Thompson. He just has to be patient, sitting up there in first place, not try and push the car, just try and hang out there in first place, make sure he doesn't make a mistake for himself. But looks like Robert Schwenkler just wide out of the kink. Ooh, sends it way off track, keeps it out of the wall and keeps it straight and back onto the track. He comes still in second place, but he's now just way far behind Adam Thompson. And with how evenly matched on pace they are, I'm not sure if he can make that up.
Dare I say it, I think Schwenkler might have just thrown away the race lead, the race win in this race, and I can't quite tell you what the gap is. I think it's floating around 4 seconds here to Adam Thompson ahead now, and that seems virtually unsurmountable.
Yeah, and that's going to be really difficult for him to match. There's a race in the GT4 class a few spots behind him between looks like that was behind those teams here and Grant Turner. Actually, it looks like a bit of an incident for Rob and Neville here. That's a pretty good replay here. It's actually, he comes into the hairpin, spins it out a bit, and it's like he's just sitting off track. I'm going to toe back the pits there. Just unfortunate for him there. He's having a pretty good race for himself and just it is actually here comes the BMW. That looks like the 23 of Jaden Darling around Robert Schwenkler, and just with the way he caught him, that just does not help Rob at all here, as Adam Thompson is already well down into turn 1.
Well, using up his season's bad luck very early on, Robert Schwenkler, and hopefully, I mean, to be fair, second position in a 22 car field, and I mean, how many GT4 cars have we got on this grid? I want to say about 8.
Like 9 of them.
8 or 9. Second position is still a very, very good and noble place to finish, so he won't be too disappointed with that. The fact that he hasn't gone on to win this race, and it's 20 minutes to go, of course, we can't be too hasty. But at the moment, it doesn't look like he's going to go on to win this race. I don't think he'll be too disappointed. A podium is a podium at the end of the day. And I think really someone who won't be going under that line of thinking is Chad Seep, who we're watching now, just trying to get himself up into 5th position. He's got about 1.8 seconds to Bobby Ross, just ahead of him, and Ross a little bit further down the order after fighting for that podium earlier on in the day. And maybe Seep can try and get his way through here, and maybe towards the end of this race, when the second GT3 pit stops in, he can come in, he can sort of start to challenge for a podium.
Yeah, I was just about to mention that when the second line of pit stops comes around, you got to think with Josh Klug losing that much time on pit road, he lost a round at probably maybe 9 or 10 seconds to Eduardo Peccarini there, and 5 seconds to Alec Bergstrom in front of him. So you just got to think, if he either took that much fuel or took tires and the other cars didn't, that brings up the question, do they have to take tires if they to make the car last to the end of the race? I mean, or if he just took a lot of fuel, maybe he might go to make an attempt to go to the end of the race in his Mercedes. He might try to stretch the fuel out here, or he might have just tried that so he would have to take less fuel later on. You have to think, what is Josh Klug trying to do there from 3rd place?
And I think it's a mystery, as I'm hearing in my ear that we've got A little bit of a replay coming up, and I think it was an incident for Kevin Irwin in the brightly coloured Aston Martin GT4, and onto the grass, and all the cars just lost on him, and that's a very rapid trip into the barrier, and I suspect a rather treacherous crawl home.
Yeah, a big hit for him going into turn 1. Just nothing he could do there. Just sends it too hard into turn 1, and just once it got sideways, just nothing he could do. Head on into the barrier here as we take a look at Frank Appa here. He's just been hanging out in his Mercedes, currently sitting in a top 10 position, which would be a great result for him, I think, towards the end of this race. And Kevin Irwin, just unfortunate for him. And looks like actually James Keir, Robert Schwenkler might have messed up again. I think James Keir got around him, and now so is Grant Turner as well to move himself into the podium. This is just all going south for Robert Schwenkler.
Slow as well.
Yeah, there's another car. Yeah, there's another car going into the grass. Looks like he might have gotten off track earlier and was just going slow as to make sure to not pull up in front of anyone. And actually, there was a Ferrari back there, I think, that went off track as well. I'm not sure who that could have been.
I was going to say for a moment I thought there could have been a puncture. There was a bit of a puff of smoke coming out from the rear right-hand side of the car, but he seems to have got it back going again now, Schwenkler, albeit a little bit battered and bruised, as we see what happened to Patrick Carr, but onto the grass once again. And, oh, that wasn't the incident, actually, as he's back going. Oh,
yeah, it looks like he did get off track a bit there. As you can see, tire tracks in the grass. If I'm not mistaken, I do remember seeing a Ferrari go off track there, and we were looking at what happened to Robert Schwenkler there, so I'm wondering if we can maybe see what happened to him, or who that driver was. So it looks like it might have been Robbie
there was an incident between the two of them.
Looks like Robbie Shin, he got sideways off of the outside grass, taps the wall with the rear end there, and just slow on the inside of that corner to make sure not to pull up in front of the racing line. So smart driving from these guys. As you see the tire tracks from Robert Schwenkler there as well. Brings it nicely back onto the track, out of the final corner, doesn't lose too much out of it. But Eduardo Peccarini, as he comes to actually get around Adam Thompson, and he's off track. He's off track, brings it nicely back on. No time lost there. Actually, definitely a bit of time lost, but nothing too big, as he was trying to get around Adam Thompson. It's just too wide there, ends up going into the grass, keeps it out of the barrier. No damage, no harm, no foul. So I was just about to mention him for just what a fantastic job he's done this race, but looks like Josh Claude just pitted again there, actually, I think. It looks like, so.
That was certainly a very, very aggressive lapping, and I always think, particularly when you're the race leader yourself, you've got to be extra careful when overtaking the other class's race leader, and Eduardo Peccarini almost getting it all wrong there and throwing away what otherwise would have been a very comfortable victory. 2 seconds is all that he lost, though, and in fact it was more about 1.4, if that, is actually, I'm very wrong there, 3.2 seconds that he's apparently lost on the previous lap. But, well, back going again, and it was only a brief excursion onto the grass, and Peccarini can collect his thoughts and just get back into a rhythm, and maybe, at the worst case scenario, crawl home for these last 15 minutes.
Yeah, definitely. He's still a very quick driver, and he knows that he can get it done here. He just has to keep that car clean and consistent, not do what he did the previous lap there, as you can maybe see his tire tracks there as he rejoined at the racing surface. But going back a couple of spots, looks like Bobby Ross is stalking Jake Ham to move himself back up into the podium places here as he heads towards the kink when they race down towards the hairpin here, heading towards turn 5. He gets close enough, looks like a bit of a brake tap there towards the hairpin. Maybe just might not have been a good move, as actually definitely not a good move, as they had to pass a GT4 lap traffic there. Looks like still side by side of them as he heads down towards turn number 7 there. Now he's clear of him. It looks like the McLaren of James Keir, I do believe, in second place for the GT4 class. And if I'm not mistaken, I do believe these two are teammates up here, just judging off their paint scheme. So Bobby Ross and Jake Ham going at it for third place, and this will be for a podium.
Yep, and well, I think Bobby Ross here he's going to have a very difficult time getting through on Jake Ham. Jake Ham having a very good deal of pace so far. And, well, oh, there's this huge moment, and in fact it's turned into a little bit more of a moment for Bobby Ross, who spins around and almost collected some more traffic here, as I think that was Seep who sailed on through, and as we go to a replay, he just got it on the grass and got it all wrong, Bobby Ross. And let's see what's happened here. He touches the grass and the car just goes round on him, and he does quite well to save it, holds the brakes and all of that, but then almost cuts across back into traffic, and Bobby Ross with a very nervous moment.
And just barely missed Chad Seep there, who he now has to chase down to just move himself back up into P4 there. Just very unfortunate for Bobby Ross, who was having such a good race and just plaguing it with just unfortunate mistakes, as Kerry Cantera is back into the pits there in P9 for the GT3 class. So now he has to get back around. Not only he has to get back around James Keir there for second in the GT4 class, but now if he wants to just move himself back into a shot where he could just maybe by any chance get a podium, he's going to have to move himself around Chad Seep here, who is also in a Mercedes in front of him in that number 73 car.
And you'd be forgiven for saying that it's essentially the podium dreams are all over for Bobby Ross with 12 minutes to go in the race, as overtaking two cars, particularly with a 6-second interval up to Jake after he passes Chad Seep. It is all but over. That being said, we still expect maybe one more pit stop for the GT3 cars. So the notes that I was given in front of me say probably. So I think we'll put heavy emphasis on the probably. And at the moment, it appears that might be what's happened in these last 10 minutes. We see a quick splash and dash from some of the GT3 cars, and I'm not too sure. But right now, Bobby Ross has just got to focus on getting ahead of Chad Seep, who actually gets it all wrong into the hairpin, and he's going to give Bobby Ross a little bit of a run at him, and I don't think he's quite got the overspeed on his fellow Mercedes. But for a moment, there was hope.
And it looks like a few more cars into the pits. I think it is a two-stop race for the GT3s, because Eduardo Peccarini is headed toward pit lane there. He's currently just sailing down pit lane as more GT3 cars in front of him heading towards the pits as well. That's Jaden Darling, it looks like, as well as it looks like another car right there in front of that might be Kerry Cantera, who was just in the pits earlier. So looks like back into the pits again, but Eduardo Peccarini there headed into his first place pit stall, and now we have to really see if something that any of these guys might have attempted here, if something any of them might have attempted might have worked here. Alec Bergstrom stays out an extra lap, so it honestly, what I'm looking for here is to see if these guys, if any of them are maybe attempting to go to the end here. If they're pinning again, I'm assuming that they can't, but you never know with how much these guys can maybe save some fuel here. They might be able to change their engine map in there to try and save some fuel there. And with how close they were to the halfway mark when they pitted, if I'm going for somebody else to win the GT3 class other than Eduardo Peccarini, I'm going with Alec Bergstrom. Might try to stay out here and make it to the end.
That would be a huge upset, wouldn't it? And I have to say, I wonder what the limiting factor is here, and maybe any of the GT3 drivers in the YouTube chat can enlighten us, but I wonder whether the limiting factor is the tyres or the fuel, whether the tyres are struggling to hold on, or whether they simply haven't fueled the cars enough, as actually Bergstrom now chooses to come into the pits, and I imagine Eduardo Peccarini will inherit the lead once again, as 17 seconds isn't a big enough margin to maintain a lead after a pit stop. So I think Peccarini will come back round to get this one, and surely it should be an absolutely regulation final 9 minutes for Eduardo.
Yeah, and it looks like Bobby Ross, either Bobby hasn't pitted yet or he gained a bit of time there through the pits here. Looks like he's currently just hanging out 5 seconds behind Eduardo Peccarini. Let's see if we can pull up the pit stops here and see if Bobby has made his second stop yet. He might not have, but it looks like, yes, he has actually. Bobby Ross has. Oh, excuse me. No, he has not made his second pit stop, actually. So Bobby Ross still yet to come into the pits, and might honestly could try to go to the end, maybe, if he thinks he saved enough fuel here, which would net him a podium over Alec Bergstrom and Josh Clark here.
Yep. And, oh dear. Bobby Ross he'll feel like he has really thrown an opportunity of a podium away. That being said, he's sitting in that second position spot and holding on to it quite comfortably. So I apologise there. I was reading my timing screen. I didn't quite hear what your train of thought was. But Bobby Ross is, after a spin, he's managed to recover it quite well so far.
And it looks like coming out of the
pits...
He is going to come into the pits eventually. Yeah. There he goes. It looks like towards the GT4 class, looks like there might be a bit of a battle between Glenn McTavish and Jerry DiPiero there. Here, as they head towards the hairpin, you can see the Aston Martin of Glenn McTavish and the BMW of Jerry DiPiero as they head into the hairpin. This is definitely going to be a bit of a battle between these two guys. It looks like Jerry pitted lap 23, McTavish comes in lap 24, and it brings them right out together as Eduardo Peccarini has actually just set the fastest lap of the race with a 1:24.29, so very close to his qualifying lap, and that just goes to show how fast he is in that number 47 BMW.
The number 47 BMW has absolutely been flying this race. 1:20.43, as you said, is absolutely... Oh no, there's a Porsche
off track.
And we've got a replay for that, and I'm not too sure who it was. It was Eric Winter. And let's see what happened here, as it was actually in an attempt to lap another Porsche, and he's just lost the car off onto throttle application, a little bit of a bent bumper, and well, a dented bumper at least. And Eric Winter now going to have to crawl home for the fight. He's gone into the pits, but I was going to say, other than that, it might have been a case of crawling home for the final few minutes of this race. Someone who is certainly crawling home for the final few minutes of this race is Adam Thompson. I want to mention he is leading in GT. Oh no, that's Cobb.
Right behind him. That
Clog,
looks like,
even.
I think that's Jake Ham actually in the Ferrari behind him. Just unfortunate end to this race for Eric Whitner is actually Adam off track as well, and he made a second pit stop there. Adam Thompson off track, Jake Ham follows suit into the tire barriers. Adam manages to keep his car clean, but Adam, right there, he went into the pits again, actually. As we take a look at his off track, looks like just maybe hits the curb all wrong, brings it nicely back onto the track, nothing lost, nothing gained there for himself. As see just the Ferrari in the background just pancake the tire barrier, and actually, Adam is back into the pits here, so I wonder if it might be a two-stop race for both classes.
Or maybe he sustained some damage from some incident. He had a pretty hefty interval, as in fact, he has, of course, lost the lead of the race now on pit exits. And it appears that no one wants to win this GT4 race at the moment, as both Adam Thompson and Robert Schwenkler now having excursions off the circuit. And hopefully that's no damage for Adam, actually, because with 14 seconds, he's got to hope that now the new leader of James Keir, who, may I remind you, I said we should keep an eye on in this race going through the field. He needs to keep an eye on him, because all of a sudden he might be in with a shot of winning this race despite not having led a lap up to this point, 40 minutes into the contest. And all of a sudden James Keir will be hoping he can do anything he can to get to the end of this race.
Yeah, but I just got to think, with another GT4 car pitting behind him, that was Robert Neville. I'm not sure if it was for damage or just he pulled into the pits, but you got to think, do these guys have to pit a second time? That was Adam's second pit stop of the race here. So, actually, I do think, then yes, they do have to pit twice as Jake Ham heads into the pits. So, as we watch Adam head to the final three corners, looks like he will retake the lead unless, he lost a bit of time there heading towards that BMW who is actually pitting. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I do believe that is Jaden Darling there, who just entered the pit, so he definitely lost a bit of time off that, but looks like he is going to easily reclaim the lead as he heads back down towards one as we enter the final 3 minutes of this race. And looks like we have a bit of a crash replay coming up here Not sure. Looks like it was Frank Appa here entering turn 7 in his Mercedes. Ooh, looks like just off track, just doesn't get it correct. Oh, he actually comes back on track and hits Jaden Darling there through turn 9. Looks like not much damage for either car, but that's still probably going to be a 4X for iRacing, which just brings them ever so closer to a penalty as we are in the final 2.5 minutes of this race.
As that would actually explain why we saw Jaden Darling coming into the pits, perhaps pitting for a little bit of damage, as I believe he had already made 2 pit stops. No, that was his second pit stop.
That was actually Patrick Cobb that we saw there. So
oh right, okay, yeah, and that was his second pit stop as well. Eric Whitner is the only person in the field apart from Kerry Cantora, who has made 3 pit stops in the race. But right now, a couple of minutes, 2 minutes, in fact, for Eduardo Peccarini to navigate around this circuit, and maybe he's going to back off a little bit, try and make it 1 less lap if possible, and he's certainly got the interval to do so. I'm not sure if he can quite make this the final lap with 1 minute and 40 seconds to go. He'd have to lift off 20 seconds here with Eduardo Peccarini. So I believe we're on to the penultimate lap of this race now, and it should be a crawl home for Eduardo. And I say should with a whole lot of emphasis, because usually in racing the should is not quite as easy as you'd think.
Yeah, just Eduardo is just so fast. We saw him last season just dominating every TCR race that he showed up to, driving a Hyundai, and now he pulls up to the big leagues in these big, heavy GT3 cars. Actually catches up to Adam Thompson here, exiting turn 9, the 2 leaders of their respective classes, and they're going to end up going side by side for a little bit before the end of the race here. And just going back to Eduardo's story, I mean, started in the TCRs just dominating every race, and he moves up to the big, heavy GT3 cars, and just judging off of just quality alone, we knew how quick he was going to be, almost a second faster than the entire field. And just to show up here, unaccounted for in the GT3 cars, and just dominate the race like this, it's just incredible as he takes the white flag for the first race of Season 2 of the Cross Touring Cup.
And we have got spat off a second and third, as I'm hearing in my ears, and we'll switch to that. But as I said, Pecorini has got almost 1,000 I rating, over 1,000 I rating on anyone else in this field, and anyone else in the GT3 category as well. So really, you'd expect him statistically to go on and dominate these races, but as we said, I rating is absolutely not everything. You can just have incredible drivers who don't particularly play a lot of iRacing, and they can be faster, but really statistically he's all there, and well, he's all there pace wise as well. He's putting his money where his mouth is, and currently leading home a dominant win. This battle for second is going to go right to the line. I'm not too sure it's going to be all that intensely fought, though, as it seems to be quite a gap. And interesting to know where Pecorini is in all of this, and whether he's going to take the checkered flag. I think he's just coming around Sector 3 now, isn't he? So, well, Alex, for the first time this season.
Yeah, for the first time this season, rounding the final corner, Eduardo Peccarini takes the checkered flag in Season 2 of the Cross Touring Cup, driving the only BMW compared to his competitors in the top 5. Alec Bergstrom is going to bring it home P2 in front of Josh Clogg behind him, who finishes P3, with Adam Thompson, our boss up here for Slow Motion Broadcasting, wins the day for the GT4 class. Looks like Jake Ham is going to round the final couple of corners to finish P4, as there's a train of GT3 cars behind him heading through the final couple of corners to finish their race, as well as James Keir crosses the line in second on the day, and looks like Grant Turner is going to end up with a podium for the GT4 class. Glenn McTavish in fourth for GT4, and everybody just coming around the final corners. We see Grant Turner here Looks like Chad Seep as well, Bobby Ross, everybody coming across the line here to finish this race. Matthew Plaisance there in his Ferrari has not yet crossed the line. I believe he is the only driver yet to cross the line here. As he comes around the final couple of corners, he gained 4 spots here in this race, so a great job from him. Comes from a karting background, it looks like, so great job from him in his Ferrari as he rounds the final corner here at Barber to finish P7 at the end of the day. And what a race, honestly. We had a lot of different storylines here coming into this, mainly the switch from TCRs to GT4s, and I'd say it was for the better. I mean, we had some fantastic racing from these guys as Adam Thompson, our boss here for Slow Motion Broadcasting, ends up with the win at the end of the day. Robert Schwenkler, his main competitor the whole time, just made a couple of costly mistakes which just set him back, but just fantastic race from everybody as we take a look at our race results. Eduardo Peccarini, astonishing race from him. I don't believe he lost the lead. Actually, no, he did lose the lead at a couple points during pit stops, but wins by 13 seconds, which is just an amazing gap. A great job from him over Alec Bergstrom, who finishes P2, Josh Clogg in 3rd, Jake Ham in 4th, Chad Seep in 5th, Bobby Ross in 6th, Matthew Plaisance in 7th. Is actually, there's our boss back there in the background doing a bit of a burnout for himself. Hell yeah, I like it. There you go, Adam. There you go, celebrating that win. It looks like he's got another car behind him. That looks like James Keir in his McLaren. So, anyways, Jaden Darling P8 for GT3s, Frank Appa in 9th, Robbie Shin P10, Eric Whitner in 11th, Patrick Cobb in 12th, and to the GT4 fields, Adam Thompson ends up winning the race, P13 overall. James Keir, 14th overall, ends up P2 for the GT4 class. Grant Turner in 3rd, Glenn McTavish in 4th, excuse me, I was about to say 16th, and Robert Schwenkler in 5th, Jerry DiPiero 6th, Rob Neville in 7th there. So we scroll down a little bit, Kevin Irwin in 9th is actually Kevin Irwin in, I believe that is 8th for the GT4 class, is actually right in front of them. Kerry Cantera, the last GT3 car, rounds himself out in 13th for GT3s. Kevin Irwin in 21st overall, looks like 8th in class there in the 7 car. And Tyler Coates rounds out the field, P22 overall, P9 in his respective class. And just, Tom, what a race from the Cross Touring Cup here at Barber.
And only the 2 DNFs as well, according to my screen. Kevin Irwin and Tyler Coates, I believe, being the 2 people unfortunately failing to finish these races. In fact, that might not be all correct. I think Kevin Irwin might have actually finished in the end, but the 2 Aston Martins down at the rear of the field. But, well, an interesting race, that's for certain. And in fact, we've got a couple of interviews coming up now as well. We've actually managed to get Eduardo Peccarini to join us in the box, and I'm sure we'll grab him in a moment.
Yeah, just what a race from these guys. But we're going to get to some interviews here, and we're going to drag in Eduardo Peccarini, who won the race here overall in dominating fashion here in a new class for himself as well here in the Cross Touring Cup. Eduardo, it was an entirely new car, and you end up on top yet again in dominating fashion, man. What a race.
Hi, Alex. Thank you. Yeah, it was a good race. It was much harder than what it shows in the times. I had to pace myself and everything because this is a hard track. These cars don't forgive an error, so I was really trying to manage the gap and everything. Alec and Josh were coming strong, so I'm really glad everything worked out.
Yeah, and you just did a fantastic job for yourself. You outclassed the field by a mile. I mean, just off of qualifying alone, just just tell me what goes into just setting these lap times. I mean, just off qualifying alone, you were a second ahead of the entire field. Just what goes into just being so fast here in the GT3 cars and the TCRs as well?
Yeah, it's a matter of letting the car roll into the corner. Typically, when you are starting with a new car or a new track, you tend to be too much on the brakes and slow the car too much for the turn. So getting a feeling of when you should release the brake and let the car roll with a higher corner speed, it's night and day for these cars. These cars have a lot of downforce, nice tires, so when you let them roll into the corner with enough speed, you come out faster, and there's a lot of time there.
Yeah, just great job from you, even with an entirely new car. I mean, how was it? You were driving a whole new car. I mean, we saw you dominate the TCRs last season, and you did it again this race in GT3s. Just how much different? I know we went over a bit last season of how different the cars are, but how much different is it as a driver? And the small front-wheel drive compact TCR cars to move up to these big, heavy, powerful rear-wheel drive GT3 cars.
Yeah, it's night and day, man. And the TCRs are front-wheel drive cars. It's just another way of driving entirely. So you have to adapt. I've been out of the TCRs in official racings and races and everything, just trying to learn the ways of the GT3s. We've been running GT3 and GTEs in another league. We did the 24 hours of Le Mans, 6 hours of the Glen, just to do laps and laps and laps and get to know the car.
And even with an entirely new car, you won the race in dominating fashion. Anybody you want to give a thanks to? Give a bit of a shout out to?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks to you guys, SMB. It's always doing a really, really wonderful job. Robert and the league and everyone that makes this possible. The RISA guys, indie guys, teams that I race with. So everybody who's cheering me up, thanks for everything.
Yeah, you did a great job tonight. I'm going to drag you back in. You did a great job here tonight. Be proud
Thank
of
you, man.
yourself, man. Have a
Thanks,
good
man.
one.
See you.
And a rather happy Adam Thompson, I believe, will be dragging in next. I'm just waiting for him to pop into the booth. I think I can drag him in actually. And Adam, you must be happy with that
Our boss.
GT4 performance. And it looked for a moment that you didn't want to win the race with the spin, and then Robert spun as well after you were stuck behind him for a little bit. And surely just a matter of keeping cool.
Yeah, whoa. First of all, is it considered a spin if your back end doesn't come around the front end? I got a little bit loose and maybe I got into the grass a little bit, but no, I was able to hold on to it. And yeah, Rob got by me there, and I for some reason I was a little quicker in that final sector through turn 11 and 12. But there was really no good place to pass. So I figured I'd try to do it in the pits, and that didn't work. So, yeah, I had to go for a move, and that move I made was I had two GT3s come up past me, and I just decided to try to ride their coattails through there, and Rob had to get wide out of the way for him, and that's what got me by him, and it was all over from there.
And obviously a brilliant race to start the GT4 Championship, and I'm going to get straight away my first question about the wider championship underway. Do you think you've got the package that can go on to win the championship?
Well, I would tell you not to sleep on Rob. He just got a tattoo, so his arm was hurting him pretty bad, and he couldn't really. He was basically driving with one hand. So if he can drive with one hand that well, I'm really worried what he can do with two. So we'll have to see how the rest of it goes. But yeah, big thanks to Rob for the battle, and man, it was a lot of fun. It really was.
And one more question, I guess. How is the Aston Martin GT4 handling this season? Because of course we had TCR cars last season. How's the GT4?
Well, so here's the thing, Tom. I couldn't tell you how it handles compared to any of the other cars because I saw this car come out on iRacing, and y'all may judge me for this, but I buy cars based on how they look. And I was like, ooh, that thing looks really cool. I'm going to buy it. So I bought it and I started driving it and I enjoy it. I know Rob and James Keir both switched from the Aston Martin over to the McLaren. So I don't know how the other cars handle compared to this one, but it got me a win tonight. So it must not be that bad, right?
Well, I can't lie. I often choose the Aston Martin purely because it's an Aston Martin. So, regardless of of handling. But thank you very much, Adam. Anyway, and well, we'll speak to you soon. I am wary that we're a little bit pressed for time here, so I'll hand back over to Alex for the round off.
Yeah, congrats to our boss, Adam Thompson, who wins the day in the GT4 class. I'll drag you back over.
Hang on,
So,
whoa. I want to give you guys a big thank you as well for getting this stream up. Ian, working your ass off to get everything going on this broadcast tonight. And hopefully it went off without a hitch, guys. Alex, Tom, can't wait to watch it back. So thank you so much, guys, for everything you guys do. None of this is possible without y'all.
Yeah, and thank you. Hopefully the channel doesn't get taken down after Adam swears live on
Okay, bye, guys.
Alright, I'll drag it back in. Alright, well, probably shouldn't have said that, but just Tom, any final thoughts from yourself? I mean, personally, I thought it was a great race here for the first race of Season 2 of the Cross Touring Cup here at Barber Motorsports Park, even with the limited passing opportunities. Just give me your final thoughts, because personally, I thought it was a pretty good race.
Well, great race, and judging by the way Monza is, it should be even better.
Yeah, definitely. And with that, say we bit of a send off for the first race of Season 2 of the Cross Touring Cup here. Fantastic race from everybody that raced tonight. Thank you for showing up and giving us a great show to cover here. My name is Alex Andersen. I have been joined in the booth by Tom Dillon and Ian Fisher running cameras in the background. Thank you for watching tonight, and everybody have a good one here from Barber Motorsports Park.